Hello, welcome back to All for United WFC. It's great to have you back. Look at you all in the comments already. Jesus, a lot of you are in there already. So great to have you all here talking about a pre-season game. That's not something we often do on this channel because we can't watch them for the most part. So there's not a lot to talk about. However, we could watch yesterday's game. A lot of us were there as well. It was actually well sold. In and around the ground yesterday, full west stand and a bit of south as well. So we've got lots to talk about. We've seen some announcements today as well. Lucy Newell and sorry, I got really distracted then. You know when you see something like the corner of your eye? I wish I could turn my camera on right now because I just looked at the corner of my eye. There is a hot air balloon less than probably about 100 meters outside my window right now. It is massive. Just outside the window. That really threw me off. I was wondering what the hell that was. Anyway, I'm just keeping an eye on that because it's coming to if I suddenly disappear.
It's not the Wizard of Oz, is it?
It's a purple one. I don't know what it is, but it's that's pretty close to the hat. If I suddenly disappear, you know what's happened. It's that hot air balloon has crashed into the house. Anyway, on we go. So we got a bit to talk about. Obviously, the main focus, obviously, talking about yesterday's game, some standout performances, and obviously, judging by the social reaction to the game, it certainly lowered people's expectations. But I want to get into that as well, see what the panelists think. However, as you can see, I've got two people with me and two people with a bit of a connection as well with the fanzine. For people who don't know, I'm going to start with this. So, Andy, I'm getting really distracted. We'll start with yourself because if people maybe haven't seen you before, if there's new people watching this, sorry, Catherine, I just covered you up there. But if you just want to give a little explanation as to what that is and why I've just brought that on the screen. You're muted there, so people can't hear a word you're saying.
So this is issue 19 of Barmy Article, the first fanzine in women's football, and currently the only printed fanzine in women's football. Chelsea got one for a while, but they've gone digital. It started in May 2021, 19 regular issues plus a cup final special for the one that we won. And it arrived today. So you've just seen the front cover, but here it is in the flesh pulp paper. And there's the back, a bit of artwork. And it's basically United fans talking about United. Well, United women fans talking about United women. You don't have to be a qualified journalist. You don't even have to be that good at English to write for it. The whole point of it is it's non-professionals with a platform to talk about the club. It can be serious, it can be fun, it can be long, it can be short. Whatever you've got to say about the club, you can get in touch and you can write for it. So if you want to write for it, get in touch anytime and you could be in issue 20.
And where can people buy it if people want to get a copy of it?
So we always first sell at a match. So usually it'll be the first home match after it's printed. And I'm not allowed on site at LSV selling it because of the stewards. United are aware of it. United promote it in the programme sometimes. But Leigh Sports Village are pretty odd. So across the road from the main stand, near Morrison's, where the merch sellers stand, that's where you'd find me before most home games. This one will be also going to Stockholm. So it'll be on sale at the second game. So get your conversion to Swedish kroners ready. And other than that, it can be ordered online. Gets posted out to you with a cool little wax seal with the Barmy Article logo on it. And you don't have to get to games to get it. You can always get it online.
I'm glad that you answered the question there because there's the comment saying, always look for you at games, we can never find you. Trust me, he's always in the same spot. Has been ever since I've been going to games. Kind of in that spot just by Morrison. So, can certainly find you there. And you can get it online, right? Did you say you can get it online, I think?
Yep. There's an online store where you can order it. It's £2 in the flesh, £3 if you get it online to cover postage and stuff. But yeah, I get more money for it to go to future ones if you buy it in person because that £3 becomes about £1.90 when PayPal and Stripe and the post office have had their cut.
So there we go. So if you haven't already, if you see Andy about, make sure you get hold of one. That's the cover. Keep an eye out for. They're always good. I wish I had one next to me right now. I don't. I think they're in the drawer over there, so I could hold her for previous issue. But they are worth getting. And like Andy said, especially print things these days. There's not too many about. Because everything is on here. I say that as a digital platform where everything is kind of online.
While we're still on it, there are also these collectible trading cards. Series 1, all the artwork was done by Dan Schofield, and Series 2, all the photographs were taken by Claire she's changed her name. Claire from Shoots Like a Girl Photography. She is a hobby photographer who recently got access to games, and there's 15 of those in Series 2 that you can buy and collect. £1.50 for a set of 3, random set of 3, and then you can trade and swap and show them off. And you can get them signed on the back. See, actually.
Is this where you're going to show off a player's signature or something?
Like that?
I was trying to work out whose that is in the signature, but I got no idea.
Rachel and Leah, and then Grace just missed the big white bit and signed it on the side. But at least it's signed.
That's a bit like some of our shooting yesterday. Anyway, we'll come back to that at the end. Obviously, I'll drop all the links in the description as well for people if they want to go and find it and follow Andy, obviously, in particular, to get all of that information. I want to actually start. I know a lot of you guys are here to talk about the game and everything else, but there's a lot of you talking about SAF, so I'll start with that because that got announced a few hours ago. So, Catherine, I'll throw it over to yourself first. Just your thoughts on it, really, that SAF has signed a new contract until 2028.
Yeah, really good. I mean, she's obviously a big personality, and I think she's a really kind of loved part of that goalkeepers union. I think they're quite a tight-knit group. So from that standpoint, it's really good. I would like to see her get some more game time. I think that would be the only major concern I would have is when is she going to play? Of course, with having the possibility of Champions League football, maybe that does open up some cup games, I would hope. But I mean, she's been playing for Wales, so surely some game time is due.
I think that's the thing, isn't it, Andy? When we're talking about goalkeepers, there's obviously, it's not like an outfielder where you could potentially play a couple of positions. It's one position, and as we've seen, Fallon is by far the best keeper in the, many would argue in the WSL, potentially in the world right now. So, Andy, what do you think on this one in terms of her, I guess, signing extension? Because where is she going to get these minutes? We signed Kayla to be the number 2. So where do you kind of see her fitting in the future?
I don't know. I mean, historically in men's football, they've always had a third choice keeper as well as a reserve. So it's not odd to have 3 keepers. But I think if we do get into Europe proper, then I think she's got even less chance of minutes because the League Cup doesn't come around until the later stages then. And I think unless we get some Division 2, 3, Tier 4 sides in the FA Cup, I don't think she's going to play in that either. And even against them, it does tend to go with Fallon, which I'm not against because the FA Cup, you want to get to that final again. You want to play your strongest team. So I don't know. I mean, Kayla Rendell didn't get any minutes last year anyway until the Sevens tournament. So where Saf gets minutes, I don't know. But, it is good to have 3 keepers just in case. And like Catherine said, she does seem to be a well-loved part of the squad and popular with the fan base where how she champions her autism and owns it and speaks about it often. So I think as a character, I think she's a great person to have. As a goalkeeper, however good she is, if she's not on the pitch, it doesn't really matter.
No, I agree. I was just if you see me looking down, I was just looking at my phone to check what Matt Johnson, obviously the director of women's football, when the quote that he gave on Saf's extension was, any club challenging for honours need more than one top goalkeeper. Having Safia, Kayla and Fallon, we're fortunate to have one of the strongest groups in women's football. So clearly highly rated in terms of a trio. Obviously with new goalkeeper coach as well, who again I think is brilliant as well. It's time will tell whether that's an upgrade or not, but certainly a solid replacement for Wilco over the summer. But yeah, so I think it's an interesting one. It wasn't one I saw coming. I was kind of a bit like, okay, like fair enough, she's extended, but I think when you've got Kayla there, I know Kayla hasn't played like in pre-season. I think she has been injured at times, which is why she didn't play a couple. But even still, I would have thought she would have played a bit more than maybe we should. I don't know, but we shall see. It is still. I think she will. If I'm being totally honest, if you're quoting me right now, I think she will go on loan by the end of the window. But nothing is done or set these days, so we shall wait and see. Speaking of loans, we may as well while we're on that before we get to the game. Lucy Newell has gone on loan as well. She's gone over to Birmingham City for a year. Was at Blackburn for the second half of last season. So I'll flip it around. Andy, I'll start with yourself first on this one. In terms of what you think on that one, in terms of her getting a loan again, Championship. I need to get out of that habit. WSL 2 loan for her again. Do you think that's a good one for her?
Yeah, I think you want young players to go on loan at places they're going to get minutes. And, Emma Watson didn't get many at Everton. And that was a big hope for us, somebody who you expect to be picked for smaller clubs in the WSL, because she's got a chance of getting picked for us in a lot of people's minds. So going to a WSL 2 side, I think, gives that chance of minutes more, which is what they desperately need. It's no good going on loan to sit on the bench. So however good she might be and might be capable of playing for, you want to make sure that the minutes come.
Yeah, and Catherine, same question to yourself and just your thoughts on that one. I guess just that, just reinforcing, I guess, what Andy said there in terms of just her getting minutes really for future development.
Yeah, I think minutes. Sorry if, by the way, if I look distracted, I've got Lyon versus London City Lionesses on the screen over there. That's why I keep looking to the side. And Lyon keep almost scoring goals, which is, a bit like us last night. But anyway, I think it's a really good move to the WSL 2. I think it is getting more competitive as a league. We saw that with the title race kind of last year. I think a lot of it depends for me on what Birmingham City are going to do, like if they are going to be really pushing for that promotions spot again, like they did last season. 'Cause to be in and around that kind of team where you're really pushing for that title, you're really chasing something down, I think could be really good for a young player's development. And I don't know that much about Birmingham City in terms of what the coaching setup is like or what the kind of vibe around the place is like. But I think generally, I think it's a good move. And I agree that you are kind of like more likely to get minutes in WSL2. I guess the concern would be about the quality of those minutes more than the amount.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. I think that you're right to point out the competitiveness of the WSL 2 going into next season. I think, especially with this added incentive now that it's potentially 3 up, because the third place played the bottom WSL team. So there's potentially 3 up from that league next season when you're looking at it from that point of view. So I think there's even more incentive for these. And you'll see, I mean, look at Nottingham Forest, the players they're signing at the moment, like they're really pushing for it as well. And there's so many other teams in and around it. So yeah, I think there's certainly good. It's a good move for her. And I think, I tweeted this about half an hour ago. I think looking ahead, she'd be hoping to break into the first team kind of in the near future, I'd have thought. I think if this loan goes really well, gets promoted potentially with a team there, then maybe you're looking at her kind of starting to break into the team a little bit on that one. Emily, I've just noticed your comment, and I did see your comment right at the start. I forgot to bring it up. Yes, it was really good to meet you yesterday. Apologies, I had to dash very not quickly, but it was informal meeting I kind of had just as I was kind of escaping away. But no, it was really nice to meet you yesterday for the first time as well. In all the time you've been in the live chat, finally got to see you in person as well. So yes, it was good to catch you. We were both massively wrong with our score predictions, mind. But I think we got the number of goals right, but certainly not to the. I think I said 4-0 and you said 4-1 or something like that. So we were both massively wrong, but nearly the same amount of goals. Anyway, speaking of, right, let's move on to the game itself. Slater, I'll start with you. Slater, I've called you by your surname now. I'm going back into like match day mode thinking about the games. Anyway,
either works.
People in the chat who don't know you are just going to be like, what on earth did you just call him? Anyway.
Like, who are you slating? Who are you slating?
Yeah, that is his part of his name, by the way. That's not just me just coming up with something completely random.
Compose yourself, Connie. You're a professional now.
I was going to say, new people watch. I say this every time. When new people watch, I'm also like, what must they think when they join the chat? And then here we go.
Let's ask them.
Here we go. Yeah, there you go. That's an open question for some of you. Speaking of the lineup, though, when that came out, there was a lot of like, what? The first thing I looked at was where's half our players gone? Because there was about 5 omissions, through various injuries and whatever. I've lost all my. It's that hot air balloon that came past at the start of the show. I'm believing that. Skinner said post game that there was, a few niggles and things like that, and didn't obviously want to risk the players. But I guess only the question I've got on that one is whether you would have changed anything within what we had, because it was Lisa Nelson that played on the right, which is a rogue shout. I can't lie. But could he have done anything different with the players that we had?
I think when I saw the lineup, my assumption was that Hinney would be on the left. Out of the 4 central midfielders, that Hinney would probably be on the left. And I thought maybe Nelson would have been the 10 out of the remaining 3. But obviously that was wrong. That was my perception when I saw the list of 11 without any real indication of where they would play. It was interesting to see the one right winger play on the left and stick a central midfielder out there. I don't think Nelson did a bad job on the right. And if you need right wing cover, give somebody a go in pre-season, because other than Kira Barry, who came on for 7 minutes and did well but looked knackered, you've got to bring in that cover and prepare that depth. So I'm not disappointed that he did change it up in that sense, if it gives somebody a run out in that kind of position. But it did. Yeah, I would never have guessed it. I would never have guessed the formation and the positions from the 11 players. Not a chance.
I didn't actually think of that as a potential option, especially when Hinney has literally played in the front 3 before. That would have made a lot more sense. I didn't even think about that. Catherine, do you kind of agree on that one? Is that the change you would have made to the 11? And like I said, I know we had injuries, but it didn't really make too much sense to me.
No, I think with friendlies, though, I always try and temper my own kind of thoughts with it, as in it's the opportunity to try out things. And if he was thinking about kind of, like you said, a kind of future depth issue on the right, then maybe he was just trying to think, okay, what are some solutions that we could have? But I agree with Truth there, who said that Nelson didn't look entirely comfortable there. I definitely agreed with that. And it reminded me a little bit of something we saw with England in the Euros, where Lauren James and Lauren Hemp switched sides. It reminded me a little bit of that. And again, that wasn't a friendly, that was in the Euros. But I always, try and temper, right? There were a few things I did like. I really liked Dom Jansen being a bit further back, closer to defence, where she plays for country as well. But that's kind of jumping ahead, so I'll be quiet.
Yeah, I think from my side, I think when you look at the 11, I was just excited to see I say the kids, but the kind of like the youngsters, i.e. Scarlett Hill, Jess Anderson, Evie Rabjohn were all kind of on the bench, who coincidentally, for those of you who are aware or whatever, the United 23s or the PGA, whichever you want to call them, are playing Wythenshawe tonight. All 3 of those players I just mentioned are all starting. So that's maybe why we didn't see them yesterday, because all 3 of them are literally starting tonight's game. So that would explain that one. But yeah, I was kind of looking at the squad thinking, hang on a minute, where's like everyone gone? It was like, I think, Freelina was always going to be a difficult one to play. I didn't think she would play, but I thought she might have made the squad at least. But obviously, Skinner spoke about that. She's a couple of weeks away. Galton and Sandberg and Mel and Grace all had kind of niggles and things like that. And it's just like, I get not risking them, but it's kind of, it's what it is on that one. However, we did start the game well, because we scored within 5 minutes. And it's Simi Wood, and someone I want to really highlight, actually, because she's, I feel, going to have such a big season. And I think she needs it as well, for someone who's kind of not had too many minutes since coming to United. So, Catherine, I'll start with you first on the goal itself. It's kind of her playing in the 10, which, again, not something I expected her playing in that kind of position, but winning the ball higher up. And so my question is just obviously on the goal itself, and also the impact you think she's going to have going into next season.
I was really impressed with her last season, and also because when I was leaving the Spurs stadium in London after United played Spurs, I briefly met her outside, and she was really, really nice, because I just kind of gushed and said, "Oh, he was so good," and she was really lovely. But anyway, on the game last night, her goal. I mean, yes, you can obviously talk about technique and a really good finish, but also Liverpool's defending there was absolutely catastrophic, and something that we've seen a lot of in pre-season. They rectified it midway through the match, which I wasn't happy about. But yeah, I think I can really see her. I don't know. I would love to see her starting a few games just to kind of see what she's like in a full 90 minutes, if that makes sense. Because I think it's a very different. We saw it last season. I think she came on quite often as a sub, quite late on in the game, almost like Michelle. Sorry, I've got Euros brain. Michelle Adjeman kind of role, and I think sometimes those players need to be given the chance of starting, and you kind of see if they can have the similar impact. And my thinking is that she probably can, because she just looks so technical, so speedy, and she was really impressive for it's Canada. She's Canadian, right?
Yep.
Yeah. And she played for Canada at some point over the summer in one of their friendlies, and she was really good then. And I would just like to see her get a few more minutes, and be given the chance to start once in a while, just to see whether she has that impact from minute one.
I think as well, like Andy, when we're talking about Simi in particular, I think her stock rose particularly after the World Sevens. Now I know that's a different format, and it's very much smaller pitches, the smaller goals, it was a faster format and everything else. But she did. What did she win? Was it Player of the Tour?
Breakout star.
Breakout star.
Yeah, breakout star.
At the Sevens as well. So her kind of stock rose after that, and I think she's kicked on from there. Looking at preseason and everything else. So yeah, same question to yourself in terms of the goal and just what you think she can add to the team going into next season.
I think with the goal, the keeper put the defender in all kinds of trouble. It was a pretty, Simi had a close down already in advance of the pass, but it was still Simi that nipped in and stole the ball rather than an absolute mistake. She took advantage of a poor pass and was proactive, and then composed enough to finish, which was great to see. I think with the Sevens, I don't think that showed us that she was any better than we already thought, but I think that gave her a platform to say, this is my pitch. I can do it as a standalone player. She's not coming on as a last 20 minutes and go and shadow somebody else and see if you can do what somebody else has just been doing. I think it should hopefully give her that confidence to go on and start and be a dominant player in the middle. I think with her as well as Jade Riviere, with the Canadian players, they tend to play a lot of times for Canada before they've hit the professional scene, because they spend so much time playing college football. And I think when you see how many international caps they've got, you think, well, they should be starting every week, surely. But they've not done that week in, week out professional football environment. They've still been playing college until relatively recently. I think certainly Jade, and I think Simi's the same. We were their first professional contract, I think. I think that's got to be taken into account for the ones that say she should have played a lot more last year. It is a big adjustment. I know it's a cliche with Mark Skinner that players need to adjust, but players that come without playing that professional environment before probably do need a bit of time to adjust. And I think she's certainly showed that she is a hell of a player, and it should be her season if she gets in the team, because I don't think she's in our first choice 3 in midfield, but I think she might, after last night especially, have a chance of pushing Toone and Clinton in that 10 role and being a rotation option in there, because she's not going to be a 6, I don't think, especially now we've got Ziggiotti. I think Hinney's an absolute starter at the 8 if she's fit, but I think she's staked a claim for that 10 role to mix it up in there between her, Toone and Clinton if Clinton stays.
I think that's an interesting discussion. Well, actually, I was going to ask this a bit later on, but I feel like it's a good time before we have to talk about the 2 Liverpool goals, which, Emily, I know that's what you're here for, as the Liverpool rep in the chat. But, I think from the positive point of view, I think, it was nice to see Preston as well. And Turland as well was pressing the keeper, I think was referenced in the chat as well. That, it was Terry obviously pressing the keeper and, forced them kind of into a mistake, which is actually how we scored a lot of our goals last season, was by pressing teams and forcing them into errors rather than, I guess, creating something up our own back. But in terms of the midfield, it's been mentioned a couple of times, Brandon putting about Zigotti and Hinney in midfield. Truth then followed it up with saying kind of similar thing about Zigotti and Hinney as kind of like a pivot, and then Branton again following up with a midfield of two. Zigotti and Hinney should be able to control most games this season. So I guess that's the question, because I was actually really impressed with the midfield anyway. In both halves, I thought they were pretty good. It was everyone else around them I think I had more of a concern about. But what would you want to see the starting three as, I guess, next season? Or, we don't even need to say next season, next week when we go into Champions League. What do you think is our strongest three right now out of all the players we've got? Because midfield is certainly the most stacked position we've got, with the options there. That's an open question to either of you that wants to throw the three out there first. But what do you reckon our strongest is?
I've got two out of the three. I reckon Toone has to be in there at the moment, just on form, and Hinney. And then, well, a lot also depends, I think, on what happens in defence. With Millie Turner coming back, does Janssen still have a claim on that role, or where does she play? Yes, it's tricky.
I think Jansen's got to be a centre back.
Yeah.
The only reason I say that is because, well, one, that's her best position in my opinion, but also we don't have anyone else. Like, we've got Mayer and Millie, and that's it. Like, if Dom's not a centre back, we don't have anyone else that is a centre back. So my assumption is she's got to be a centre back, because otherwise there's just no one else. We seem to be going along a similar theme here. Truth also going for Zigotti, Hinney, and Toone/Clinton. I think, Slayer, you're kind of the same, because you said Hinney's a shoo-in as well. So
yeah, I think Hinney last season was just we were far better whenever she was on the pitch. I think a player like Zigotti behind her helps Hinney's game as well. And for me, it's Toone in that 10 role. I think Toone's the one that the way we played just after Christmas, after the winter break, against City at the Etihad, and then a few games on from that as well. The press between Toone and Terry, as well as Galton was playing on the left at that point, or was Mel playing at times? I think Selin supports the press very well, and I think that front three at least, Galton, when she's got the legs, I think are a great pressing unit, and I think a base behind Toone of Hinney and Zigotti, I think, just gives her license to go and do what Toone does. And she'll get stuck in, but she can also make something happen. So I think that's. I don't think there's even any debate in my mind that that's the three.
Yeah, I think that's a fair shout. I agree with Becky, though. If Clinton is still here next season, I think she is better for some games. I said this in the games against Chelsea. I was happy that she was starting against Chelsea, because I think Toone is great when you have the ball. I don't think she's great when you don't. Whereas Clinton is much better when we're against a team like Chelsea. You need a bit of physicality, and you're not going to have a lot more of the ball. She's very good in that kind of midfield. Well, she played in the 10 at LSV. And to me, that was one of the best performances we've put in against Chelsea, because the midfield was solid. It was Janssen, Hinney, and Clinton, wasn't it? In that one, I just think there are games for her. But yeah, I think it's good to have the options, because when something else I want to talk about in a second, when we're looking at other areas of the pitch, we don't have any options. So it's nice to be able to ask this conversation in terms of the midfield. Because if I asked you who's starting on the right wing, we've got one answer. That's Bizet, because we don't have anyone else. And same for right back, it's Riviere, because we don't have anyone else. So I think they're easier answers than these kind of positions. So that's an interesting shout. A diamond roll with Zigotti, Hinney, Grayson, Toone in this. So that would be two strikers then. And to be fair, I'm not against. I've always wanted a two-striker system. Mallard and Turland, she's split strikers. Down for that. I did just see the comment. She's not coming in to play defence. I know United have listed her as a defender. I have seen it, but she's not. She even said that in her interview, that she's basically outlined it herself, saying she's coming in essentially to play on the wing. So yeah, I don't know why they've done that. Galton's also a midfielder, which she's not. She's a forward technically, but.
Well, I think until recently, Martha Harris was still on the website.
And that is going back some time. Yeah. I just quickly
want to say, I think one thing with Clinton, though, that does strike me is that I really want to see her get a good run of games, because I have this feeling that if she gets a solid run, which we saw from at times last season, but consistently, some solid game time, like consistently, I think her level's just going to shoot up, because she seems to be a hugely a confidence player to me. And I just think with consistent game time, her levels might go like shoot up. Which is the only thing, because I do agree that for me, Toone generally is the one who I would put in that 10. So that's the only thing. Yeah.
I think that's the dilemma. If Toone was 28, 29, I think you'd put everything into Clinton. But Toone's only a couple of years older than Clinton. She's only 25. So you've got a few years for her to build into a prime and keep playing. So I don't think we're going to get enough minutes between the two of them, taking it in turns in the 10, to accommodate a confidence player in that sense. I think it's a tricky situation to develop Clinton, because there is still development there. She's good enough to play, but there is still development to come. Whereas Toone is more established. And I think if we had two readily established players rotating between those positions, and you one of them wasn't relying on a run of games, I think you get more out of the different options. But I think it's tricky to try and bring Clinton on while keeping Toone in for the talent that she's got.
Yeah, and I think as well, I think we saw it last season. I don't think that there's certain. It's a strange one, because obviously I know Mark Skinner gets a lot of criticism about the way he uses his subs and everything else, but he doesn't seem afraid to sub Ella Toone, and Clinton as well for the most part. Those two he seems pretty comfortable, so especially last season. Well, like I said, he dropped Toone for the FA Cup final, which obviously was a big decision as well, and everything else. So I think that position, there doesn't seem to be too much of a worry there. But yeah, I think we'll wait to see on that one. I think Sporty, in terms of your question, that is literally almost word for word how I've got it written down on my notes, but I will come back to that, because that is one for a little while. But I've starred your question, so we'll come back to that one. In terms of the Liverpool equaliser, then. The only thing I really remember of this one, I've just watched it back on my phone very quickly, was the one thing I was thinking in the ground was, where on earth have our left side gone? Because it was one switch ball, and the fact that Zigotti Olmo was the one sprinting back from midfield to get to our left back position, I was trying to work out where on earth our left side had gone. Slater, in terms of yourself, what went wrong from your point of view on that one?
I don't know how it happened, but Gabby George got dragged into the middle. And it's not like the centre halves were missing for her to be running across the cover. She just drifted inside for some reason. And then Zigotti, obviously, she did the tracking back, but she just committed and got turned far too easily. So she should never have been in that position, because Gabby George should have been where she was supposed to be. But I think Zigotti was... She wasn't expecting that cutback, which is exactly what you should expect when you're chasing back in that position. And obviously the finish was untouchable. So yeah, I think Gabby George was mainly at fault for opening that left side so much. But then Zigotti could have done a lot better as well after she'd done well to get back and cover.
I was going to say, it was almost like she was sprinting that fast she couldn't stop, because she got to the ball and just went past her almost. Which wasn't great. I was just re-watching the goal back. So Gabby is following a player into the middle, but Meyer and Janssen are right there. There is almost like no need to track the run. It's almost like Janssen take her. And also, it's such a poor goal. And also, as Truth has said a bit further up, nobody pressing Evans on the right side. She had all the time in the world to play the switch pass. So yeah, I guess Catherine, same point over to yourself in terms of just, I guess, the disappointment, because it's a good finish, to be fair, when she's got into the position, but how easy it is. It's one ball from the centre half.
Yeah.
Cut right open.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it was also a case of kind of knowing when to press, if that makes sense. And I feel like our decision making, which you've got to expect, I think, in a friendly pre-season, second or third game all back together, and introducing, a slightly different lineup, a couple of new players. You do expect that, but I feel like it was a case of, like you said, particularly with Gabby and maybe Janssen, each one expecting the other one to be covering or not expecting the other one to be there, and then they were there. And I feel like this is the kind of thing that you do iron out in preseason, and is the reason why we have preseason. But mainly I thought it was the decision making on kind of who am I pressing, where am I pressing them, and how fast are we going. And like you said, Ziggiotti, sorry, I cannot pronounce names. I actually almost thought kind of was perhaps chasing the player rather than the ball, if that makes sense. I have no idea if that makes any sense, but I remember thinking that when I was watching it. I was like, no, the ball's there, the player, you're chasing the player instead of the ball.
I do get what you mean, actually, because as I said, it's almost like she was sprinting that fast, just just went past it in the end. If you saw me laughing there, it wasn't that what you said. I have to laugh. We've had probably hundreds of thousands of comments over the years of doing this, probably into the millions, to be honest with you. That shows we've done everything else. That is, we've never had anyone question the emoji that we've used in a YouTube title. I will take the blame for that. It was me that named the YouTube show for this one. If I'm being totally honest, I didn't know what else to call the show. So it's called that because we did keep it unbeaten, and I didn't know what other emoji to put. Like, so I put that one. I don't know. What would you have put as an emoji there? I'm not saying it's a good result. You'll hear my thoughts in a second when I get to the result and what worries me. I don't think it's a good thing at all, but I didn't know what else to put.
Maybe just like an ambivalent kind of thumbs up, or a neutral.
It's all right, Connor. TW saying guess better to get these mistakes out in pre-season, so you've got it out the way now, and you can get it better when the league football starts.
Exactly. Someone did ask actually if there's going to be a player of the match poll in the chat. Not for this one. There will be one for the 2 Champions League games because we run them throughout the whole season and then we top them all up at the end of the season. Who's got the most in terms of the votes and everything else? But we're only doing it on competitive games rather than the friendlies and things like that. Mira, see that comment? I can't put that. But hang on. I think yes and no. I mean, Real Betis are not a good team. Let's be real. Did they get relegated or did they finish near the bottom of Liga F? They were certainly near the bottom. So they're not a great team. And the fact we were 7-0 up at half time, I think, tells you that. But I don't know about that. It was good to just, I think, certainly get some minutes out there and everything else in that one. Yes, they did get relegated. Thank you. I knew that. I knew they were kind of near the bottom at least. From that one, I'm being told off now. Right, we'll move on. Let's get the second goal out of the way, then the Liverpool one. I think I actually tweeted this off the AFU account. It's actually a really good finish. This one. I don't think Fallon's getting anywhere near this one. However, again, I think it's never on one player when you can see the goal, but this one is on the right side. So again, it's fullbacks kind of again. I've just rewatched it to make sure what I'm saying is correct. But I have a feeling it's Jade kind of a little bit out of position and Mayer's then trying to cover it and can't really get back. And it's just a great finish on the edge. I guess like the point I want to make on this one, does it worry you a little bit that both goals have kind of come from similar things, almost like a fullback kind of being slightly out of position and the centre-backs can't cover too well?
If it was one of the kind of makeshift players being out of position, you could understand it, but it's our first choice for the first goal. At least it's our first choice left back. If it's Nalsund on right wing, not tracking somebody, then fair enough. If it's Bizet switched over to the left who misses something positionally, then fair enough. But we've got players in the natural positions making the mistakes. So hopefully it's something where they get it out. As said, get out of the way pre-season, and this is the time to make those mistakes. To maybe they're not fully committed because they know in a week's time they've got Champions League qualifier. Do you want to run yourself into the ground in this game? No. Do you want to perform though? Yeah. So I don't think it's necessarily a worry because they will know next week and beyond. I think that it's a pre-season. You've had a long pre-season. You've had warm weather training. You're back at LSV in front of fans again. I think it's a funny game for some, especially just a week before the real football, so to speak, starts. So while it is concerning in the moment, I don't think it worries me going forward. I think we've got players who who can focus and can concentrate in the games that matter and keep themselves together with properly drilled teams as well, with players in front of them who they're used to, and partnerships that are formed.
I think as well, just in defence of Jade, because I actually think that was Jade's one of. I don't think Jade was great, to be honest. She was definitely below her standard. But it is worth noting that's her first 90 minutes for months. Like since she got injured at the back end of last season, obviously missed the cup final and missed those kind of run of games. She's not played 90 minutes since. She didn't play for Canada. The two first preseason friendlies weren't full games. They were kind of like 30-minute thirds, if you will. And not everyone, was kind of on and off on that one. Didn't play the full 90 against Real Betis. So this was her first 90 in terms of that one. So when you look at it from that point of view, I think it was big for her to get minutes. It's probably why she looked maybe a little bit rusty. But I agree with you. I think when you're looking at the players who made, particularly Jade on that side, and even Maya to a certain extent, I'm not worried in terms of those two, because one game does not make them bad players all of a sudden. Sorry, I'm getting distracted. Just a quick second. Can I just squash this for a second? All these rumours I see floating around online. The only thing I will say in respect of Clinton and a couple of other players, just check the account it comes from before you believe the rumours. Just click on whose profile it is, read the bio. You'll see whether it's legit or not. Is all I'll say on that one, without discrediting where those tweets might have come from. Yeah, Catherine, over to yourself in terms of the second, I guess, Liverpool goal, because it did deflate LSV a little bit. It was a bit just like, oh, it's a bit annoying.
Yeah, I had the same feeling, and probably just emphasised because it was Liverpool, and I think also because of the expectations I had going into this game, because I haven't watched Liverpool's pre-season, but I've just heard about it, and like everyone's saying, oh, they're so shocking, they're so poor, that I kind of expected to face that again, which is my own mistake. And obviously they're probably going through a kind of new manager bounce-ish thing as well. My first impression was actually just that it was a really good goal. It was a really good finish. And that was my initial impression. And then, I remember just thinking we weren't quite, it's like you could tell it was a pre-season game because we weren't quite going that extra yard that we would in a competitive game. And I think it's those extra yards that made the difference this time. And that's where, when you have players slightly out of position, they wouldn't be slightly out of position in a competitive game because they would be making that kind of extra 10% effort to get back into position. They would, so I feel like I'm not concerned. I agreed that it is slightly not concerning. I hate that word. Slightly worrying that it was our first choice kind of players making the mistakes. But then I also think if you are going to make those mistakes, they're our first choice players because they learn, and they have learned. And I think the important thing is that they learn from these mistakes, and I think they will.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you raised quite well. You both raised good points, but obviously with the qualifiers a week away. I think that's going to be the test. If we play like this in those two qualifiers, then I'm going to be looking at the season like, hang on a minute. Like, that's a big one. I want to come on to what concerns me in a second from what I've seen from that point of view. But we did get a bit of positivity before the game ended. And Kira Barry, who a player we've heard about as United fans for a few years now, but kind of been struck by injuries throughout various loans and just been in and around United. But certainly a talent. And it was the first time a player just whipped a cross in first time. It's like we were crying out for that. Not just standing on the ball. Don't just put the cross in. And that's what happened. So yeah, Andy, kick us off with this one if you want to talk us through that one, because it was a brilliant goal all around, I thought.
Yeah, the finish was well controlled and well placed. She's in space because of how early the cross is. I think that first time cross has meant the defence haven't had as much chance. They still should have been closer to Toone, but they didn't have as much chance to close it down because of how early the cross was. I think the pass from Jade, it's simple, but it very often doesn't happen that they put a ball in front of a winger who can then just step onto it and strike it first time. Too many passes go straight to feet where the winger's got work to do to get it in a position to put a cross in. So I think the pass from Jade was great to put Barry in a position that she could just stride onto it and cross it in. But the most of the credit has to be to that cross itself. She's she's had 7 minutes plus 4 minutes injury time on the pitch, and she's strode onto the ball. She's put a cross in that I think quite often in women's football, because teams do often have a striker that's particularly tall, they'll loop a cross over the top instead of whipping it in. I think with men's football, because we've already found all the men that are tall and pick them out and put them on the pitch, you've got to be more accurate. In women's football, I think they get away with lifting it up and like looping it onto somebody's head, but that was a cross that finds a player. It was sharp, it was quite low, it was direct, and it was rapid. So I think she put another cross in a few minutes after it, and it's like she did it and she was like, whoa, look at this, I want to do that again. And that one didn't find its target, but the intent and the confidence that will come from the success of that is hopefully something that will grow with her, and she'll remember that. And as she gets more minutes and can play more of a game, then maybe that cover on the right wing is already there.
Hold that thought. Someone will ask you that in a second in terms of Kira Barry as her own kind of thoughts in terms of next season. Gareth makes a good point there about the whole point of getting the ball out wide is to get the defence sort themselves out. But yeah, Catherine, over to you in terms of the goal itself and just a bit of relief, I guess.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was biting my nails at that point. Yeah, I thought what I really liked to see from Barry was just the confidence to do that, because it was like she didn't think about it. And I think occasionally with United, especially going forward, you can see sometimes players, I feel, take like a second too long just to think about it. They think about it slightly too much, but there was this is a positive. She did it without thinking. And this is a real positive. It was like an instinctual thing. It's like Chloe Kelly putting those crosses in. That is it. It's almost like part of her. It's an innate quality. It was almost like that. And then Ella Toone, the control of the ball, to pick up the ball kind of at that height and control it like that was fantastic. And yeah, it was a huge confidence boost. I expect for both of them to get kind of to get a goal at Ella to be ahead of the season. And watching football at the same time as doing this was a bad idea. But yeah, it was really nice, and I was very glad, very happy for Kira Barry to come on. I have to admit, though, I did have to do a quick Google search afterwards, because I was like, wait, I know this name, but why do I know this name? Yeah.
I think she's kind of been in and around the fringe of the first team. Obviously, we were hoping last couple of seasons with loans and everything else, but then again, injuries just kind of stunted that growth of hers. And I think Truth made the point again. It's a back over to Chelsea. You kind of said similar as well. Truth asking if she's going on loan. I don't think so. I've not heard anything to suggest that she is. So with that, do you think she's ready to be the right wing cover essentially? Because as I mentioned earlier, we've only got Celine. And Kira Barry. Is that enough, do we think, for kind of right wing cover?
I think if you can bring somebody in, you've got to. But if you can't, then use the players you've got at your disposal. I wouldn't go into the season thinking don't bother bringing anybody in because we've got Kira Barry. But I would certainly say keep her in and around the squad and get in minutes. Even if we get somebody in, still keep. If you can get a loan for great. If you can't, give her 10 minutes, give her 20 minutes here and there. But if we don't manage to bring a right winger in, then absolutely throw her in. Give her a chance to shine. She's done that. Try and get her on the pitch not too long after that, so that she can, it's fresh in her mind and she can go on believing in herself and stake a claim and put pressure on Bizet. And is Bizet going to play on the left at all this season? If she did last night, I don't know. But if that's some strange thing that's going on, then get any right winger you've got who's whipping crosses in like that on the pitch and in a position to do so.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Ethan, I want to come back to your comment in a second. That's a really good comment. But yeah, Catherine, anything to add on that?
Yeah, one? I was just going to say, I feel like she's relatively unknown in the league as well, which could be a huge benefit in just terms of like opposition not entirely knowing how to deal with her. And I agree. I would like to see her stay and get a few minutes here and there, and especially with the comment that popped up that I really agreed with, which is you saw Celine Bizet play a huge amount of minutes, obviously because we didn't have really much choice, but yeah, definitely some relief as well.
Yeah, I agree. And like I said, I would certainly be going out and getting another winger. Well, I think we need 2 more forwards, if I'm being totally honest. But yeah, I don't think it's a bad option to have. In terms of the crossing, though, Ethan makes the point about, when you cross, I guess, first time, it makes you more exposed and everything like that. If the cross is not great, then yes, it does. Because as we'll come to in a second about what's concerning me, we're not great at defending counterattacks and fast transitioning teams. And certainly in the Champions League, that's what you'll come up against a lot in that sense. So are they being told not to put it in first time like that? Because you do that, you run the risk of the ball turning over quick, and then all of a sudden you're on the back foot running the other way. Whereas if you slow it down, whatever else, wait for your players to get in the box, yeah, the opposition can regroup, but so can you. So it's like, I mean, I would still do it first time anyway because it causes the opposition defence more issues. But I can see the logic behind what you're saying, that maybe it is being said to not to do that, just to be more defensively aware.
Yeah, I think it gives you more benefit than it does the opposition, because if the opposition defence haven't had time to settle, then they're less prepared to counter attack. And the longer you've took stepping over it on the wing, are your defence getting ready for a counter attack at that point, or are they shuffling around trying to support the attack still? So I think getting it in quicker is much more beneficial to the attacking team than the defending team. I don't think the risk is significant by doing that.
I also think it depends on the quality of the crosses, if and the kind of relationship between the person putting the crosses in and the striker. Because if you know that they tend to find each other, then it's much less of a risk.
Yeah, I agree. I think, as the comments are saying there, pros and cons essentially is what we're kind of weighing up there on that one.
I think another quick point on that, Connor, is what Ziggiotti seems to offer.
Yes.
She set up a goal by doing this in one of the friendlies recently, where she put a tackle in, and that tackle turned into an assist. I don't think we've had that since Hayley Ladd. I think what I used to say about Hayley Ladd is she defends all over the pitch. And I think Ziggiotti looks like that kind of player that when there is a transition, that if we lose the ball and the other team are trying to transition into an attack, if she's sniffing that out before they make that first pass, we're not waiting to be set up in our own half again. We're snuffing it out with a player that hunts it down before it becomes a transition. And I think since Hayley Ladd, we haven't really had it, and Ziggiotti seems to be that player that doesn't need to be in front of the defence to defend. She can be on the 18-yard line of the opposition and still be defending and cutting out an attack before it becomes an attack.
No, I agree, and I thought she was excellent yesterday as well. Just on her, I think everything I've heard throughout pre-season was how good she has been. I'm glad we got to see that in person as well. RC's mentioned about Toone being unlucky to score. I think that's it. When I take a step back from the game, we did have chances. The fair play to, I can never forget her. I can't remember her name, but the Liverpool keeper did pull off some really good saves, particularly in the first half, which was getting incredibly frustrating. And then Toone hit the bar, in the second half as well. So we probably should have killed it when we had the chances. But again, that story of last season, we said this so many times last season: don't have the chances, don't kill the game. Team counters on us, and we just don't have enough then to come back. And I think that's what's a little bit worrying, that we still don't score. I know the 8-0 against Betis, but like I said, let's be real, they're not a great side. I wouldn't expect that all the time, but certainly in a game like that, maybe. Yeah, I agree. I think, I don't know. I just don't think. I think RC actually put the comment in earlier, like, if Grace is to leave, someone's got to replace the goals, because that does worry me. Other people have got to chip in with goals this season, because for Grace to be one of our top scorers from midfield, what are the forwards doing? I know Toone obviously was the top scorer, but the others need to start chipping in. I'm looking at Mallard and Galton, and even Bizet, as great as she was, has got to start chipping in with more goals as well, from forward positions. Which kind of leads me on to a quick question. It's sport you asked this ages ago. how many players
Ooh.
do you think the squad is short of? So after what we saw yesterday, there's obviously rumours about Giovanna Hoffman, another forward potentially coming in as well. Yeah, that's a big question. How many? Because the windows are, I mean, what is it? It's the 4th of September, isn't it? It's shot. So it's about 10 days or so, 11 days. We've not got long now. And obviously, we play our qualifiers in less than a week's time now. It is starting to worry me a little bit because I think my personal answer to this question is I think we're 3. Depending on what your expectations are, I think we're 3 away from competing for the top 3 or finishing in the top 3. What are we all saying on that one?
I was going to say 3.
I think I agree. Possibly even 4, because I'm looking at, depending on what version of Hannah Blundell comes back, which you can't really predict after that long out. I think both fullbacks need cover. I think cover at right back, and I think at left back we need somebody who can attack better. I think we need a Jade for the left. I think right wing needs
could Anna
cover,
be that?
Potentially. But again, you know the type of player that she is from last season, but not the quality yet. And could she be that in 3 years? More than likely. Could she be it this season? We don't know. She's got the intent. She's got the right approach to the game to do that. It's just, is she going to do that at the level we need it right now? That's the question. We've got the type of players, but we've shopped for the next 3 years for a long time. And this summer, so far, we've not made enough signings, but the signings we have made are for right now. They improve our 11. But I think, aside from 2 fullbacks, I think right wing needs depth. And I think we need, striker as well. Because while Mallard is able cover up front, she plays up front sometimes, she plays on the left sometimes. Does the addition of Rolfo mean that Mel is a rotational striker and not going to be shipped out to the left? Because I think there's too much of that where a player is used in too many different positions and doesn't excel in any. Which is why I also want Dom not to cover in midfield if she's going to be playing in defence. I want her to focus on being a defender. So I think we've got too many positions that are covered by players being taken out of other positions. So I'm going to say 4 to really bulk out the squad and make it, give us 2 players in every position.
What you've just said there is exactly my thought. And I think United, I don't know this is a fact, so don't quote me on this. This is purely just my assumption based off the signings we're making and the names that we're hearing, is that it's almost like an assumption that we're happy with having players playing multiple positions that can cover multiple positions, because we've only got 1-6 really in Zigliotti, but they're happy maybe for Janssen to cover there or Hinney can cover there. We don't really have a back at right back, but Hannah could play there or Maya could play there. Left back is kind of the same, like you've got a couple there as well. Like striker again, you're kind of, is Mel a striker? Is she a left winger? You're kind of banking on a couple of positions. Same with right wing. Oh, but Toone could play there or Grace could play there. It's like we don't have actual players like, no, that is your position. We're kind of mixing and matching players all over the place. And that's what, because I think 3 or 4, we definitely need a centre-back cover, because we're 1 injury at centre-back away from having no spare centre-backs, unless he's moving Gabby George to centre-back, which again, you're then moving players out of position and moving them about. And it's like, I don't know. So we definitely need a centre-back. I think True's comment was bang on, actually, in terms of positions-wise. I brought it up a second ago. Striker, right wing, right back, centre-back. I think then we're competitive from that point of view. I don't think that's going to happen, though, if I'm being honest. I think we would have heard about more by now, considering there's only 10, 11 days left of the window. Yeah, it's a bit of a worry. I can't lie. I'm all for leaving business a little bit late, but this is getting a bit too late for my liking. And especially because as well, like you bring players early into the window so they can have a pre-season with the squad and gel with the squad and understand it. We've seen with Rolfo, she's coming in late. She's not going to be ready for a couple of weeks, Skinner was saying the other day, or whatever else. So we're going into the season without having her. She's not trained with the squad yet. So it's like, it's just going to be a bit more. I keep forgetting about Rabjon, actually. It's a good point. Centre-back / right back. It's okay, we do have one more, but again, I think they want her on loan. Now, whether they try and keep her now as kind of a player to save us, maybe needed to get a signing, but I think she's going on loan, personally. We'll wait and see what happens with that one.
See, I think Rabjon, along with the likes of Watson, are players where if they hadn't had the injuries, they may have been first teamers by now. I think we recruited well, and without that bad luck, they could have been established, and we wouldn't be having this conversation. But you take a player at that age out for a year, and everything slows down. The development once the back slows down to what it would have been, and I think that's really unlucky because there are some players that really could have stepped up by now if they hadn't been hampered by those injuries.
Yeah. I think that's a fair point, because I actually think Emma Watson would have played a really big role this season as well. It's from an attacking point of view. But as I've tweeted it again today, my understanding is she's going to Crystal Palace. So, it's pretty much done as far as I'm aware. So from that point of view, I don't think she's going to be at United next season. So again, it's just like, I don't know. I think the strategy is right in terms of improving the 11, because as you said, we bought a lot of players for the future, and that's fine. But eventually, you do need players for now. But it shouldn't. I mean, it probably does, because if we beat Hammarby, obviously if we beat PSV and then Hammarby, we're in the Champions League next round. So maybe players are waiting on that to see if we get through this little mini thing. But it doesn't help us, does it? Because it's not a great position for us to be in if players are then waiting to see if we can make it through. Because then we might not even get into the league phase anyway, because we could lose in the next qualifying round if we get a tough team. So
I also think part of it is just the headache from the Euros, waiting to see kind of which players come back. We've seen quite a few players come back with injuries. On United's side, maybe waiting to see, because the players who we're looking at, who are kind of more established players who improved the starting 11 now, are more likely to have been playing in the Euros. So I think waiting to see kind of who's come back with major injuries, who's come back fit in, and just in terms of players having a few weeks off, and it does end up being late.
I think that's it. I've always said I'll reserve judgment until the actual window closes, and we kind of go from there. Earlier, I did just laugh at this. Somewhere Liberty is holding up a glass to you. Yes, Hammarby mentioned again. She'll be back next week, Erling. You'll be happy to know to talk us through the Champions League qualifiers. So that'll be exciting when we come to do that one. My kind of final question before we will just do a quick player of the match as well. There's no poll, but we'll kind of say one anyway. Is in terms of the expectation for the season. Now, obviously, we've only watched one pre-season game. We've seen highlights and bits and pieces from the others. Has what we saw yesterday altered your expectation for the season at all in terms of what we saw on the pitch or anything like that? Kath is shaking her head from the off. Oh, both of you saying no.
No.
If we were to put weight on that, then I think we'd be giving up now.
Yeah.
I think the players that played aren't indicative of who's going to feature as the main players in the season. And I think the way we played was probably with next week in mind. I think we've not yet lost any starters from last season, and we brought two pretty much guaranteed starters in, and hopefully one or two more. So I don't think you put that much weight on what happened yesterday as far as what's going to happen when competitive football starts.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think as well, I wouldn't put any weight. I do think there was some, obviously with players playing completely different positions, there was some tactical kind of just trying things out yesterday as well. I definitely think we saw that. And also I'm really excited to see, I love it when players from national teams play together at club as well. And I'm really excited to see kind of our Swedish connections happening. And we haven't seen that yet. And I think particularly with Rolfo and Zigiotti probably starting every game, I really want to see how that pans out, because I think quite often they tend to kind of have a nice kind of, you can see it with Celine and Turland, that when they play together for country now, which, I know Turland doesn't always start for Norway, obviously, but when she does, that relationship carries over, and I think that could be something that is a real highlight for us this year.
I really hope so. Those connections on the pitch are sometimes more valuable than the player quality itself. And I think it's a tough question to answer, because I think it depends what your expectation is of the season. My expectation always going into every season is top three. I currently don't think we'll get it based on the squad we've got. As I said, I think we're three short at least, because I think with 1 or 2 injuries. We saw what happened with City last season. They had a couple of injuries, and look at the fall off because they didn't have the players there. I know they had a lot more injuries, but that's what worries me. I don't think with that, and with multiple competitions potentially as well, like if you're in the Champions League, it's going to be even harder for those kind of things. So that's what worries me a little bit on that point of view. So yeah, I'm not too sure. Question about whether we'd bring Honor back with the current crisis of Arsenal. Do you have positive hopes United can bring? I
don't think she'd come back.
I don't know. I don't know whether she would. She probably would want to. I don't think she would turn it down, but I don't even know if United would go back in for her, to be honest. I don't know. I don't think so.
I think
I know there's a lot
Hansen,
of talk about it.
Tuva Hansen was an interesting shout, especially since I think we saw at the World Sevens after the final, United and Bayern do seem to have like a really good relationship with their women's team. So I think Tuva Hansen is a good shout, and I would like to see her at United.
That's been fan led for a while, the Tuva Hansen shout. So maybe one day we'll see Tuva coming over to United. So, and Shakira Martinez as well was another shout, which I think is realistic as well, and someone who's proven in the W. I mean, she nearly got the Golden Boot in half a season.
Yeah,
that's insane. In a West Ham team as well. Like, so she's proven she can do it in the league. Yeah, that would be a sensible one, but we'll see. Right, let's come to player of the match. Who I think Zigiotti got it, the official one from United yesterday. Is there any disagreement with that, or do you want to throw another name into the hat for player of the match for yesterday?
Kira Barry. Just for that cross, and because there wasn't much else to judge.
I would throw in Elizabeth Toland because I just think she gets so kind of maligned on goal if she doesn't score a goal, and yet the work rate and the amount of pressing that she did, which opened up space for other players like Simi. And yeah, I feel like it's almost like the Alessia Russo thing where people slate Russo for not scoring, and yet the amount of work that she puts in the space that she creates and running defenders ragged and thanks, Mia.
Yeah, you gained a fan there.
I think maybe you do a player of the first half an hour instead.
Yeah, we didn't do a lot after that, did we?
No.
Yeah, I don't know. Zigiotti I thought was good. Turlin was good. She obviously she's unlucky she didn't get the goal in the end. And yeah, I thought Simi was good. I can't lie. I thought she had a good game as well. It's hard, isn't it? Because I said there was players out of position all over the place and kind of maybe not at full speed and everything else. But yeah, but I'm kind of sitting on the fence here between those three. But yeah, I don't think there's any other shouts really. Fallon can do nothing about the goals. Didn't really have anything else to do other than that. The back line were just kind of average. Yeah, I'll stick with that from that point of view. Which has some shouts in the chat as well. Trying to bring that comment up. Yeah, is it Hinny always? Yeah, of course. Hinny's always on our player of the match polls. She always makes the top 4. Because that was good in the second half, not much. Yeah, I think so. I think as well, like there's a lot of people I've seen online today, like just jumping on the players. Like all of a sudden, one bad game makes them like rubbish players. All of a sudden, like that's just not how football works. Like, yeah, come on. Some of the stuff I've seen today is crazy. Like we'd sell off. We don't have that many players as it is, and people are on about selling more. Like,
were you online at all in the Euros after the Sweden game? Because that was a whole heap of fun.
I try and avoid it. Win games. We do our talking on here, and we'll leave the rest to everyone else. But there we go. Right, look to round it off there. It's, yes, indeed, that is going to be something.
Yes,
I can't wait for that.
I do want to see at some point. I'm by no means saying this should be our first choice. Part of our first choice 11 because it would be ridiculous. But at some point, I want to see Galton and Rolfall down the left together, left back and left wing, just for fun one time.
In like a Conti Cup game, like if we get through to the Champions League in the Conti Cup quarterfinal or something.
Yeah. Just let them mix it up, let them overlap each other, and let them just have a laugh down the left.
Yeah, I can back that.
Why not?
can't be much worse than some of the things we've seen anyway. So, but there we go. Yes. So I think we've all kind of established there's things to work on for sure. I guess we'll wait and see. It's a waiting game. Now, this next week is going to be massively important. I think there's a couple more loans to be confirmed. Kind of the loans out on that one. United, I think, at the very least, are going to have to get a couple in. But obviously, Champions League next Wednesday as well. This is going to be a busy 10 days before this transfer window ends because we've got 2 games, a lot of transfers, kind of ins and outs, and an ongoing saga as well. Because every time we do a live, we're getting asked about Grace Clinton. I've got no idea. So we'll keep an eye on that one. Wait and see what happens by the end of the window, but we shall see. Sorry, I was just reading some of the comments. I'm not concerned, no, because they're not massive injuries.
And I feel like it's to be expected with a major competition in the summer.
Yeah, and also I think as well, like it was best not to risk them from that point of view. And there was a question I'm just going through the started comments. There is a Europa League, the Europa Cup it's called. We need 1 win. If we beat PSV and then lose to Hammarby, we'll make it into the Europa Cup. That's literally how I've worked it out in my head. We need 1 win. So that's how it works in that sense.
Chances are that if we don't win the first game, the second one's against Metalist, which, how do they compare against Real Betis, for example?
No idea, actually.
I'm not expecting much from Metalist. Have you seen the fixtures on the website? It says, for the Saturday, it says 12 o'clock, Metalist v PSV or United. 7 o'clock, Hammarby v PSV or United. Now, I don't know if Hammarby are putting themselves in the final already, or if they're just saying, regardless of which round we're in, we're playing it at 7 o'clock.
I think they're expecting them to win, aren't they, Hammarby? And it's in Sweden as well, which obviously is their home stomping ground. So it's going to be a lively atmosphere.
Yeah, I watch a lot of the Eredivisie, and don't sleep on PSV. Don't sleep on PSV. They're very defensively organised.
Don't say that.
No, they're going to be tough to break down.
Great.
Yeah.
And yes, the important question of the show, no, it didn't. It disappeared behind the house next to mine, and I've not seen it since. So I hope it landed safe wherever it was going.
I think
going up towards the hill somewhere.
Was it my autocorrect always changes the Ballon d'Or to the Balloon d'Or? Was it that?
It might have been, to be fair, advertising that.
Yeah.
One, it would have been better than whatever that was.
Connor's not winning that.
Why not? You're not nominating me. Every show, Barry and Charlie don't even have to be here, and it goes off the rails. But there we go. So, if you want to shout out the fanzine again, where can people find it for people who are new watching that weren't watching at the start and everything else?
Yeah, there it is.
Get hold of it.
New artist this time as well. Ellie Evans did the front cover and the back. So, and Catherine has made a debut this time as well, writing an article in it.
Yep.
It can be found online in the description of this video at some point when you've updated it. If you search Barmy Article, you'll find stuff about it. And also near the merch sellers, if you go to Morrison's, then you might see me. But if some people are chatting to me, you might not spot me. The fact that somebody spotted Connor proves that a quiff is more noticeable than a fanzine like this. So look out for this held up rather than Connor's quiff, and you'll spot me opposite the statue at Leigh Sports Village or in Stockholm. I will have them in Stockholm. So if you go into Stockholm to the second game, whether that's a final or a third place playoff, I will be there. I might not be stood around holding it up because I've no idea where I'll stand yet, but I will be there. So send a message if you're there and you want one, and we'll figure it out.
Nice one. Make sure you check all that out. I'll update the description so it's all in there as well. In terms of our next show, and this just asked, it should be on Monday, ahead of the Champions League games with Liberty, talking about what to expect a little bit from PSV and potentially Hammarby as well. So we'll be talking more about the Champions League from next week. Obviously, if there's any transfers and stuff like that, they get confirmed, doing player profiles and all those kind of things as well. That's an incredible comment.
Connor, there is a correction to be made because RC has said we have already secured Europe, just depends what. But if we
lose both
games, then we're not even in the Europa Cup, are we?
No. We need to win at least one. Yeah. Well, one win gets no wins, no Europe, and we go into the Conti Cup. One win, it's the Europa Cup. 2 wins, next round of the Champions League.
No wins, no games.
That's the simple way of looking at it.
And then if we lose in that next round of the qualifiers, then I assume we still go into the Europa Cup after that.
I don't know. I think we're just straight out after that.
That'd be lame, wouldn't it? Second or third in this round, you go into it, but lose the next round and you're out. That would be lame.
Yeah, it's all a bit. Yeah, I don't get it. But that's how it works. That anyway. It's a simple one. I don't know when the match is where the match is going to be shown. I'm still trying to find out on that one. I never miss him. I always see him. We should win, lose on purpose. Can you imagine dropping into Europa? I don't want to speak in Europa. Anyway, right, we're wrapping up there. Make sure you're following these two as well, all the socials and everything. Words out. All the links will be down in the description for all of those kind of great things. Thanks to all of your comments. You've been amazing once again in the chat, keeping us going throughout the hour and 50 minutes we've been live. All of our social platforms are all for United WFC. So like this video and subscribe if you haven't already. And we'll be back early next week. So have a good weekend all. We'll see you guys in the next video.